Special time of year. The NFL's in full swing. Some teams are shaking off the rust at least, and looking kind of like the mad, the fantastic league that it is. MLB's into the playoffs. We just had the President's Cup, and the reason for this brief video is just to talk about my reactions and watching the President's Cup was fun. U.S. was. Yeah, I don't know what the odds were. I'm sure that you could have bet on it, and you would have been getting pretty good odds if you bet on the international game. But they had some really good golfers, some excellent golfers, and the thing, the U.S. had a huge lead, and then it was a big comeback, a huge comeback at one point, and then on Sunday, to the end of Saturday didn't go well for the Ents, and Sunday just they fought and they clawed and it looked okay at times, but they were fighting an uphill battle. America, whatever for whatever reason, the U.S. when it comes to singles play, that's when you just play against one opponent. It's not teams anymore, and it's not every other shot in these various formats that they play. This is just man on man, and U.S. is they didn't flash up the stat that I saw, but it would have been outrageous in the U.S.'s favor. But the reason I'm even talking about it is to talk about some of the enthusiasm in golf. I mean, this was a sport that was used to be so staid and quiet, and crowds were quiet, and they couldn't even so much as take a picture with your cell phone, and it was disturbingly very white. That didn't come out right, but it had like an upper middle class flavor for it. A lot of alcohol at these tournaments, but the game has just got so much better now, and players from all over the world. And there's two guys that two Asian guys. They're both last name were both Lees, and some of the theatrics these guys were pulling when they didn't even win the match, but you would have thought when they celebrated, it was like I don't know how to explain it. I've never seen anything but like it in golf. I mean, the Ryder Cup, and when a guy wins a golf tournament, especially on a shot at the end of the game, at the end of the tournament, then there's cuckoo-ness. But in the Ryder Cup, it can be just jubilation on every freaking hole that's decided. A lot of holes are called, it's a tie. It's a whatever it's called. It's a half. So that was the fight that Europe had at the end, because it looked like they were not Europe, but in the ends, they looked like they were coming back. And if you look at it, like holy shit, they could make this close. But then, like I said, Saturday at the end, it fell apart, and America got their big boy pants on, and they just they took it to them. On the last day, it was interesting because the number one player in the world, Scotty Scheffler, got taken down by Mitsuyama, I think his name is. What a match. But it didn't matter. U.S. had a big lead, and they would have had it would have been the comeback of all time, really, if they'd have took it. Well, especially with the way it was looking at, let's say, with 5 matches still to be determined, and they couldn't make it happen. All right, let's get on to Thursday Night Madness. Thursday night was the night of the Falcon game. I wouldn't call them that a marquee matchup, but it was a South Division in the NFL. It was an interdivision battle, and these teams have gone at it pretty good over the years. And Atlanta was at home, so that ended up, I think, maybe being the difference. I don't know. They won by 6 points, but they were feeling that energy of that crowd. That crowd. I'm not used to seeing. The first night I was in the Bends, I didn't see the crowd. The very first night the stadium opened, the regular season, I was there, and Paul Dess was there. But it was, you know, pumped up, static electricity thing, but not like that. Not like that game, that crowd. And I got to tell you, that crowd, let's put it this way, that was a very urban crowd. And um, when I went to games, there's probably the white people outnumber the blacks. Serious. That would be my guess. There were people of all colors. But when they scanned the crowd in Atlanta during that crowd, oof, not that I was searching for one, but finding a white face, that might have been a little tricky. But anyhow, I'm happy they're 3-2. They won the game. How they win the game, or they had to depend. And I when at halftime, I believe it was 20-20. It was a back and forth half. I don't even know if either team even punted once. And I was thinking, Tampa Bay's getting the ball back. Atlanta booted a field goal to end the half. Other than that, I was bumming out because I knew Tampa was getting the ball, and Atlanta was having serious problems making them punt. So I wasn't too hopeful. And Cousins had the first quarter, had 187 yards passing. I said, oh, wow, he's on to something. He got to 250 at halftime. I knew, these things swing. But I'm like, wow. And I'm looking at how they're not stopping Tampa, and I'm saying, we're going to need another 250 in my head. I didn't write it down. I didn't tell anybody. That's what I was thinking. And that, in other words, it's that much of a long shot. Because 400-yard games in the NFL, they're not common. They're not common. This year, there might have been a couple or three. It's obviously it's easier to do than 500. But Cuz got it done, and part of it was for this freakish play that ended the game. But I'm not going to go on and on about being a Falcon cheerleader here, because I don't think that their team really it ain't worth shit. They got to me, the most overrated player on the planet with Bijan. Why? What is it with this guy? Can't break a tackle. Can't explode past people. At least throw him the ball, something. I mean, I get so tired of these no gains and -3s, and it's just like he's not explosive at the snap of the ball or something. I don't know what it is. I hope hopes he makes me eat my words. But when Algier comes in, I'm like, good. Now we're going to start moving the ball, and we did. And the game before that, we did, and he's been better. I mean, I guess the other teams just really focused on stopping Bijan. Everybody but me right now is saying he's a great player. But he's pissing me off fantasy football wise. And as far as a Falcon fan, 3-2, okay, I'm happy. But it wasn't because of him. Cripe, can't break a run. This guy was supposed to be automatic when he got in the freaking, in this the second level, whatever they call it. Damn. And the voyage of Mr. Koo, the kicker for Atlanta, you talk about something that took about 5 years off of this young man's life. I mentioned, he booted a field goal right before the half. It was a bomb. And thank God he did. Earlier in the half, he missed a field goal. It was 4th and long. Atlanta, he had to try to boom, I think, a 50-yarder or 52, whatever it was. He hooked it to the left, just too much to the left. Flag on the play against them. So it wasn't far enough to, make them want to go for it, but it put him 5 yards closer. So I'm like, well, he missed one. What's the odds of him doing 2 in a row? But this is automatic. Same exact thing. Only this one had a little less hook and missed by a little less, but same old situation. I'm like, oh my God. This guy hadn't missed a field goal all year. And he misses 2 on one play. So now at halftime, he's 1 for 3, right? He hits one somewhere along the line in the fourth quarter or in the second half. And then it came down to it was a series of comical events as far as if you are a Tampa Bay fan, this was a series of fuck ups that it'll take you a while to try to unsnarl. First of all, an offside at the, a holding at the absolute worst time in the game. Stop the clock, push them back, and that really screwed them up because they ended up having a point. Atlanta ended up tying the game, basically because they're blaming it on a holding call. Maybe, maybe not. So now we have a situation where it's looking really dire for Atlanta, and Tampa Bay is sort of, trying to get a first down. But if they don't get the first down, Atlanta will get the ball with a teeny bit of time left. It was looking dire, and Jesse Bates punched the ball out of Bucky Irvin's hand. Paul Dess says he wasn't even tackled. Wrong. He was being tackled and he was being punched at the same time by JB. This fucking guy. It's about time. And the thing I love the most, other than, the guy was great last year, and he was a godsend and they sucked last year. The defense was awful, but he had a real big year. He was a Pro Bowl guy that they got for whatever they paid for him. So he's my guy. But the Atlanta defense sucks. It's not good enough to win these games. And I worry about Cousins. I'm a worrier. I'll admit it. Cousins, yeah, he just had a great game. He's had a lot of great games in his career. But he's not right with his foot, with his leg yet. The announcer pointed it out. Watch. He's not pushing. He's not pushing off that back foot. You watch the film on any other quarterback. When they're transferring their weight, it's from the back foot to the front. And he's lifting that foot up. He's not trusting it. And it doesn't mean he can't throw, because he threw some dimes, but he also had some Atlanta receivers pulling some shit out of their ass. I mean, that TD that Mooney caught, poof, that was a dime, but it was in trouble and it was high. Which high is good, but Mooney's a small guy. And he went up and got this freaking ball, and I'm like, I think he caught that. A little fucker. And he had a TD earlier in the game, and then he had a chance for a third TD, and inadvertently he dropped the ball. He dropped the ball in the flat, and at the same time he was dropping the ball, the D-back was just in a heap. He just twisted off. He tripped and fell, and if he caught that ball, he would have just done a dance into the end zone. So I'm like, Atlanta lost that game. And then there were later points where I said the same thing. They can't win this game. And when they got the ball for that last drive, I'm like, well, this is another screw up, big time screw up by the opposition. They punted the ball and they gave Atlanta field position instead of hitting it, putting it out at the 5-yard line or whatever. They got field position, and that's when they went on to tie the game. I don't believe that was when they won the game, but I'm just saying it was a series of unfortunate events. That's the term I was looking for. And Tampa Bay, and there was that play that Bucky got stripped. I didn't pick it up yet on the replay, but it's everybody's saying Atlanta got a gift because somebody grabbed his face mask, and that would have been canceled the fumble out. And then I'd be talking about Atlanta's 2-3, and then that's the kind of team they are. The only team in the NFL that's been in a one-score game every week. So what does that tell me? I'm not yet to say they don't suck. They're not good. We know that, but it gives me hope. It gives me a stupid desire to drive to ATL for a game if they don't suck. Solo freaking mission, 7 hours, no big deal. Scrounge up a cheapy ticket. I don't give a shit, and I'll squirrel a seat. It's when you're by yourself, that's a piece of cake. Piece of cake. The more people you are, the harder it is. You got to do is just scope out a seat, wait for the usher to abandon position. Boom, you're down. Boom, you sit down, blend right in. Especially if you got a Falcon garb on or not. Whatever, who cares? All right, so I'm happy about the Falcons. Okay, 3-2. That's a good thing. Mets, the Mets game. So here I am in this very room. I'm watching the football game. But prior to that, I was watching the Met game, and it was 0-0. I said, I'll check in with the Mets later. It was 0-0. I think it was the no score in the fourth or fifth. Quintana was cruising, and I'm like, this is going to be a nail biter. So I forgot about the baseball game for a bit, and I was watching the football game or show because the baseball game had started earlier. So I went to I went to my XM and I put the baseball game on. I'm like, I'm gonna listen to the Mets game, and I turned the sound down on the boob tube. I'm like, I do not. Somehow I don't think I need the sound on the football game. I got to listen to the Schmetz. So I turned it on, and it was right after Milwaukee had scored 2 runs, making it 2-0. Right after the end of the inning. So Milwaukee scored, Mets finished it. I mean, got the 3 outs somehow. And then now it's 2-0, and the Mets are in deep shit late in the game. And Howie Rose is not sounding too rosy. He is just like, and yesterday I couldn't remember his name, but the voice, I'm like listening. I said, this guy, I know this voice, and he is awesome. He's very good. And as it turns out, he was the guy on ESPN on the TV coverage. I was listening to the same exact thing he was saying, but on the radio feed. On the radio feed. And it was outstanding. And the way he did, it was just how great he navigated that last inning. Well, the Mets did the magic, but how he was painting the picture, talking about how dire straits there were, and then he saw that Williams looked a little unsteady, gave him a little bit of hope, and then the Mets get 2 men on, and he perks up. Runners on first and third. And he had painted this picture beforehand. He said, this could be the last at bat for Pete. Yep, the last at bat for Alonso in a Met uniform, or perhaps not if you can smash a homer or something to that effect. I mean, there was I didn't look up the stats yet, but supposedly the polar bear had a rough year. It was this walk. They call it the walk year, the year before you become free agent, and it's common for people that have good years, not shit years. And when you have a crappy one, it costs you millions, no matter how you look at it. But it doesn't mean that you're not going to be a bazillionaire. But it's not the way to go out. Anyhow, so I guess Nimmo got a big hit, and I was just watching the replay of it, and he stroked a nice hit, and he was only at a 230 average for the year. Like, I thought he was better than that. It might have been 213. I'm like, why do I think he's good? Because he plays his heart out. He's a good outfielder, and he gets stuff. He makes stuff happen. He got that big. It was first and third, and the polar bear comes to the plate. He's confident up there. He had a nice manager, I would have loved to see what he had to say to the guy. He was kind of pointing with his hand, and I was wondering if he was saying, "You know what? I'm just going to go with this pitch." And to me, he might have done that. But anyhow, so he gets up there, and the count goes to 3-1. He wasn't flirting with putting the ball down the middle off this guy. I don't care how shitty a year he had. He knows better. And in spite of how not shitty he had pitched today, on that particular day, he had pitched only 23 odd innings. He had fractures of his back. So this is a guy that's coming back from a fractured back. Back in the day, that would never happen. Never. See you next year if you're lucky. He came back and he pitched well. Not that day. Oh my God, he screwed up royal. So anyhow, Pete gets a ball. It was a change up because they said that was the only guy to hit a home run off the change all year, off his change. Ball was a little out on the outside part of the plate. Took a nice swing, nothing crazy. Bullet. As it turns out, 105 miles an hour, 362 feet later. About no outfielder in the history of baseball would have caught this ball. Don't let anybody tell you different. They would have to been got up to at least 10, 12 feet. I don't think it would have been possible. It was kind of what they call a wall scraper, but no, you can't just say put Willie Mays out there, he would have caught that ball, or Ken Griffey Jr. Not true. No, I don't buy that. It was a home run, pure and simple. And he knew when he hit it, he had the look. He knew he got it. He knew he hit the shit out of the ball. The question was it going to put a hole in the fence or was it going to go over the fence? And it went over. And how he painted the picture, my God, it was so beautiful. And the rest of the inning was even better. And the way it continued to unravel and how he's talking and he's just gem after gem. But I like to see the replay of him making a call when the Mets got the last out. I haven't heard that yet or seen it, but he called that the biggest home run. The only thing he could think to compare it to was when Ray Knight won a World Series game with an HR. It must have been in that year when they took Boston down. But it's rare. It's very rare. So that was really cool. And it was interesting because I have been following the Alonso drama, and to see the look on his face in the ice, he's saying almost isolation. I mean, people mobbed him. Obviously, they mobbed him. Pete's their guy. I'm sure they want him back on the team next year. But he had this kind of weird look on his face when they honed in on him in the dugout. I think it was just like phased disbelief. He's like, finally. Yeah. You know what? He had a walk here that was forgettable. Okay. And no one can tell you different. It was ugly. But guess what? Mets made the playoffs. And guess what? Mets are advancing in the playoffs. Why? The freaking polar bear. The Italian guy. Pete Alonso. I love that guy. What else? Well, I think that's it. So anyhow, long story short, listening to the Mets game, feeling the energy of how he rose, and thinking about thinking about how glorious a baseball game can be. You can, it's rare. You can be down to your last out. He actually had an out fairly quick, and but that was pretty shitty. One thing I would have loved to heard him asked a reporter asked the manager, the losing manager. I would love to have seen somebody have the nuts to ask the Brewers manager if that was Pete Alonso a year on a different year, the good Pete Alonso, would you have pitched to him? My guess, the guy would have said, "No fucking way." So I'm thinking, let's come on. The guys they had up next, please. It might have been contact hitters. Maybe that was it. I don't know. All I know is Alonso is on the Mets still. And I know a lot of Mets fans and bully for them. Go Mets. Let's go Mets. Yes, that was very memorable. Listen to the end of that Met game and then shutting that down, putting the Atlanta game on the tube and watching the shenanigans going on there, and they pulled one out, and I'm like, wow, maybe they don't suck after all. I worry about Cuz. I mean, Atlanta line. I guess they kept him from being sacked, but it wasn't without being harassed. Does this guy not know how to roll out and throw a pass? He stays in that pocket. He's like, there's bodies everywhere. He's some passes he threw, they look funky, and I'm like, no, that's and he didn't get picked or some people made some catches. I gotta say, it was like, and not to mention Kyle Pitts. Come on now, the reinvention of Kyle Pitts. All it took for Kyle Pitts to have a good game is for Gobbler to cut him on his fantasy football team. Yes, I couldn't take it anymore. 8 receptions for the season in 4 games, and he wasn't hurt. No, not hurt. Cousins started out strong. Anybody that's putting him in the Pro Bowl right now is smoking dope. I mean, he looked. Game 3 was maybe a B, and then this week obviously a A plus. But those first 2 games, it was really. I guess it was like his preseason, so I should give him that because for some reason Atlanta didn't play him down in preseason. They just had him in practice, rehab. I hope it works. I worry for this guy. But what a breath of fresh air to um, see them pull a game out like that. This is Falcon MO is always lose those kind of games. Once in a blue moon. They've had good kickers over the years, so they'll cop a game with a game-winning field goal. And this particular game, the the man, the Gil Hodges guy, some guy Hodges for Atlanta. I saw him catch a ball early in the game, and I'm like, not sure about it. Never heard of him. I come to find out he's a 7-year vet that caught like 8 passes in his career. I'm like, how? Must have been special teams or whatever. I'm a verified at stat, but I'm like, holy shit. So anyhow, Cuz moves the ball. Atlanta ties the game at the end, and that in itself was a miracle. And send the game into overtime. They were lucky enough to have the coin flip. Uh, this slack coverage by Tampa Bay, and Atlanta just started moving the ball, and then I almost didn't even see it happen quick because they've been getting the first down. They had a series of first downs, and they're still not still on the other side of the 50, and they throw this ball. And I'm not sure. I think it was some maybe around the 40-yard line. So it might have ended up being a 60-yard TD because this guy Hodges, he split a seam and Cuz got him the ball. It was funny. It was like almost, I won't call it a dime, but it was there. But he had to make an outstanding freaking catch, and then he put on this change of direction move that left some guy just looking for air, and there was a path, and he took off like it was a freaking a jetpack on his back. It was like a boom. He just blew by. And I'm like, God dang, they won that game. I'm like, I'm almost thinking, did you fall asleep and dream that, or was that real? But it was verified, and then the next day I saw the dope on Hodges, and then, of course, on Good Morning Football, they're talking about what a fantastic story he was, and they showed him. Kyle Brandt said he got carried off the field like Rudy, only he scored a touchdown. And then I saw it today where they showed him being carried off the field. I'm like, that is great. They interviewed the guy after the game. He says, I'm just, I'm doing my job, and thank the Lord, he read from the script, but he was obviously has a very big smile on his face, and there was a moment of his life, and he probably might not catch 4 more balls the rest of the year, but I don't care. That was a great catch. It was a good throw, a excellent catch, and a better run. It was like so freaking quick. It's like boom. When sometimes this is the thing, and when it comes to not playoff, OT football, when it's the first team that's got the ball, gets the ball, they score a touchdown, the game's over. In the playoffs, no, of course not. But in the regular season, yes. So still an advantage, but yeah. So that's that. A field goal, you can kick a field goal and hope the other team doesn't, they don't score a TD and you lose. But I think that New Orleans, Tampa Bay just ran out of gas. I'm not talking about this being some sort of great turnaround victory for the season. It's a bookmark. This is a bookmark moment. If this team makes the playoffs by some miracle, yes, because Carolina, they suck, but they'll give them at least one good game, if not 2. New Orleans, no good. They'll give Atlanta. I wouldn't say they're no good. They're like same as Tampa Bay. So those 3 teams, they're evenly matched. I'm starting to believe a little more in the Falcons, but that's why I say what I'm saying, because I was not impressed with those for a few weeks. No. Yeah, the fact that the games were close. Well, what does that do me? Close. Come on. I need W's. W's, man. Bitch. All right, so that's all I got. I'm the week 5 in the NFL. Week 5, obviously, it's already happening. Baseball's in swing. And, sorry, Tigers fans. I'm like, where's that Tiger shirt I had? I dig it up. This was after I looked at the score and found it was 7-0 Guardians. Ouch.
All yours, John.
All mine. Okay, thank you.
Okay.
See ya. And
What do you see you? Go. I'm leaving in 15 minutes.